All right. Good afternoon, Rafael. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well.
Good. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me. I know you've been on the road all day today, and you're almost home. You hit some
Almost
traffic and some rain and all that good stuff. So we connected. We chatted for a little while yesterday. Then we chatted, for a good while this morning about your experience. I told you all about the job that I'm hiring for. So at this point in time, I want to give you the floor. I want to learn a little bit about you. So why don't we go back to Laser Ship? So why don't we just kind of talk a little bit briefly about the jobs that you've had since then, and share some information that's relevant to the role that you are applying for.
okay. I was a logistics coordinator with Lasership. They were a regional operation. I specifically was in charge of an Amazon account that overseas mail. So anything that was going international, um, which had a lot of tight deadlines. You have to make cargo planes that leave at a very specific time. You can't be late. So that was honestly my entry level kind of opportunity into the logistics side. But it was very demanding, very, very, very attention oriented, detail oriented, and it was good. It was a fun time. I did my entire time while I was in college. I would go to class and then go straight there, and it was great. It very much taught me how all the little pieces fit together.
Well, I love that. And that's why I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that position. We don't usually go back that far, but I feel like it was important to note. And during that time, you were getting your bachelor's degree from Rowan.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you were living in New Jersey then.
Yes, I was living in South
Okay.
Jersey at the time.
And so then you moved to Colorado after that. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So talk to me a little bit about Colorado.
Colorado. I moved there right after college. Followed a girl, was in love, and yeah, I had a lot of experience gained in Colorado. When I got to Colorado, ultimately I settled in at All Recycling, and I was the assistant manager for their transportation department. They had 32 trucks, a combination of Class B and Class A trucks. I would do the recruiting for them. I would do the interviewing and hiring. I would do safety ride-alongs with all the drivers to make sure, they were operating the machinery correctly. I would organize monthly safety meetings, and then also I would dispatch all of our trucks. The trucks that belonged to me, I was in charge of the semi trucks. So we had a Class B operation that did mostly like dumpsters and roll offs and things like that. So I dispatched the trucks, and basically I always worked a day ahead. So I would put together all of the routing and all of the pickups and drop offs for the following day. That was how I kind of closed out the day every day.
Mhm.
But it was a great job, great opportunity. If I hadn't decided to move to Florida, I'd still probably be there. I still keep in touch with a bunch of my drivers. They
Yeah.
still call me, and we still chat. But yeah, it was a great opportunity. It really exposed me to that type of logistics and transportation, specifically like the heavy industrial and a lot of the like um, they did metal, so I learned a lot about different types of metal and how different types of metal can be processed, and how the time periods that we had to get material from one place to another. So it was very good. It was a very fun experience to learn all of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was a great opportunity.
Okay. Um, and so you were very interesting. Um, Thing to note before that position, I wanted to step back just a little bit. So you actually got your CDL license,
Yeah, yeah.
and that was
During
through a veterans grant because you are a veteran.
Yeah, yeah. I did 4 years in the Navy. Yeah.
Okay.
I During COVID, there was like a special grant for veterans that was available if they wanted to take any like secondary schooling,
Mhm.
and they paid for my CDL. So I honestly was one of the funner experiences I've had. I walked in as someone who never operated a truck or anything like that, and
Mhm.
just learning that and seeing all of the different checks you have to make and all of the different kind of things to be conscious of on the road and during like heavy operation. It was really interesting, and yeah, I have my CDL. I've had it since, yeah, right about then, 2020, 2021.
Sure.
Um, and I even tried a little bit of transportation stuff, a little bit of
Mhm.
like 1099 contractor stuff. um, it gets very like expensive and very tedious to
Mhm.
kind of run your own operation, so I stepped away from that.
Sure.
But great experience. It's
Mhm.
definitely something I take with me now, to kind of understand operations and understand, specifically even the drivers that you're overseeing and how routing works and what's
Sure.
the limitations that we have to deal with.
Mhm.
So it was a great experience.
Yeah, I feel like it is a great, whenever you have the opportunity to work on the other side for the job that you're actually doing, you have a little bit more, I mean, I don't know if this is true in trucking, but like a little bit more empathy for the drivers, knowing
Yeah.
like
Oh,
what they're doing.
absolutely.
You have like more of an understanding of how the whole logistics side of it works, and how to schedule things and how it makes sense, like how it all puts together.
Yeah, I think that's something that I do bring to any role that I step into, is just I've seen like the entire picture. I've been on on the receiving side of freight that came from across the country. I've been on the logistics side where I've planned freight that's gone across the country. So I really I do find it that it does help to understand the whole picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about your software skills.
Software skills. I mean, I'm very comfortable with any type of software. I've used uh, Descartes, different platforms. I've used Galileo. It's an older platform for Descartes. I've
Mhm.
used Salesforce. I've
Yeah.
used Dispatch Track. I've used a bunch of different types of software. I've used 10 Roads, which is like a big one, Simsera. I've been exposed to a lot of different platforms, but they all pretty much do the same thing.
Mhm.
And if it takes a little bit to learn a new one, I usually can pick that up pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Um, when I was in high school, I actually taught uh, a communication sales like software course as a senior, because I finished all my credits early and they just needed something for me to do at
Oh,
school.
yeah, that's
Um,
pretty cool.
yeah, so I've always been very like tech oriented, very like proficient at that type of stuff. I'm very good at Outlook, Excel, the
Mhm.
entire Microsoft suite. I've even been exposed to Microsoft Access, which is like a
Mhm. Yeah.
databasing. Yeah. So, I feel pretty comfortable with anything like that.
Okay, great. And I want to definitely save some questions for my clients to interview you with. So we'll save a couple things, but I do want to leave it on communication skills. You are bilingual?
I'm bilingual, yeah.
Okay, Spanish?
Spanish, yep. So it's
Okay.
actually my first language. I lived in the Dominican Republic until I was 6. And
Oh,
then,
okay.
yeah, and then I came here and had to learn English as a child. I know. I remember the first word I learned in English was scissors.
Oh,
That's a tough one, and that was
that's
my
a tough
first.
one to say if you speak English like fluently.
Yeah, yeah, that was my first word. I still remember it. I was a
Yeah.
little kid, and we were doing arts and crafts, and I needed scissors, and the kid next to me said scissors, so I just copied him. I said scissors, and I got them.
I love that, Rafael. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this part of the interview, but don't go anywhere. We got a few more things to talk about.
Okay.